tribes are believed to be the first inhabitants of the Philippines. Aeta is pronounced Aeta. They are indigenous and their ancestors were the Aborigines from Australia. There was a consensus from the anthropologists that they migrated from the islands of Borneo about 30,000 years ago, using a land bridge that was partially covered by water 5,000 years ago. The Aeta are small, dark-skinned, and kinky-haired people who once occupied the forest areas of Mount Pinatubo. They were forced to leave their home when Mount Pinatubo erupted in 1991, and their social and cultural environment was forever changed. They were referred to as Pygmy Aeta or Negritos by the early Spanish settlers in the early 15,000s. Ethnologists claim they belong to what is probably the eldest living race in the world. Today, the Filipino refer to them as kulot, meaning curly hair. They appear to have similar characteristics and manner to the Melanesian from the Solomon Islands. They are thought to be among the earliest inhabitants of the Philippines, preceding the Austronesian migrations. Regardless, modern Aeta populations have significant Austronesian admixture and speak Austronesian languages. Over the years, the majority of their population managed to keep their cultural practices and traditions. But sadly, as one of the indigenous groups thriving in the country, they also face challenges such as displacement, marginalization, and poverty. The Aetas live in the northern part of the Philippines on the islands of Luzon. Historians and anthropologists debate precisely when and how they migrated here, pointing to the Bering language theory to explain the history of the Aetas. This theory suggests that the consensus being that they crossed the land bridges from the islands of Borneo between 20 and 30,000 years ago, using a land bridge that was partially covered by water around 5,000 years ago, the remaining part of which is now the island of Palawan. And according to this theory, hunters at the time crossed these land bridges, but due to the movement of plates underneath the Earth's surface, these migration paths eventually disappeared. Therefore, even those with no intent to colonize these lands were unable to return to their original homes. Whatever the migration path was, they are without doubt among the first, if not the first, inhabitants of the Philippines. One area of our country where the Aetas have lived thousands of years was Mount Pinatubo. But an active volcano, it erupted in June 1991. The eruption was one of the worst in history and was devastating to the nearby Aeta population. Around 250,000 people lost their homes. Many of them are Aetas. Although the Filipinos are still cleaning up the ash up to this day, the Aetas have long since resettled in urban areas of Luzon. It is doubtful they will ever return to their former homeland.
Aeta communities or bands traditionally had an anarchic political structure wherein they don't have appointed chiefs to exercise authority over them. Individual Aeta is on equal grounds with the other, and their main course of social interaction is through their tradition. It is also the tradition and not constituted laws that maintain the equality among them and guide their way of life. They do have groups of elders in their community called paisen, who they tend to go to when it comes to arbitrating decisions. However, the decision made by the elders only remain in advisory capacity, and no one could force any individual to follow those decisions. Their guiding principle and conflict resolution are through sustained deliberation. Over time, this egalitarian political structure was disturbed due to recurring contacts with the lowland Filipinos, wherein the local official and individuals they interacted with forced Aeta communities to create a government structure resembling those in the lowlands. At times, Aeta communities do organize themselves in a government-like system with a captain, council, and police. But mostly, they resist such imposed organization. In particular, they refuse to appoint a chief or a president that will govern them, although they do have one elder that takes the responsibility of leadership. Aeta communities use different tools in their hunting and gathering activities. Traditional tools include traps, knives, bows, and arrows, with different types of arrow points for specialized purposes. Most Aetas are trained for hunting and gathering at age 15, including Aeta women, while men and some women typically use the standard bow and arrow. Most Aeta women prefer knives and often hunt with their dogs and in groups to increase efficiency and for social reasons. Fishing and food gathering are also done by both males and females. In terms of gender, then Aeta communities are more egalitarian in structure and practice. The Aetas are skillful in weaving and plaiting. Women exclusively weave winnows and mats. Only men make arm lengths. According to one study, about 85% of Philippine Aeta women hunt, and they hunt the same quarry as men. Aeta women hunt in groups and with dogs and have a 31% success rate as opposed to 17% for men. Their rates are even better when they combine forces with men. Mixed hunting groups have a full 41% success rate among the Aeta. Also, they do a traditional form of visual art called body scarification. The Aetas intentionally wound the skin on their back, arms, breast, legs, hands, calves, and abdomen. And then they irritate the wounds with fire, lime, and other means to form scars.
Ceremonies. Specific rituals and healing modalities are traditionally assigned based on the gravidity of the anito's effect on the person. For nausog or the nabati, the ritual of pagtatawas is enough to appease the spirit, while for those na anito, the ritual of pag-aanito is deemed necessary. According to the informants, everybody can learn the ritual of pagtatawas, but the ritual of pag-aanito is reserved only to those who belong to the lineage of mga anito. During the ritual, a specific shamanic object like red cloth and beads and a knife are essential. The red cloth is adorned with beads and must be activated by the village elder prior to use, while the knife is an heirloom pieces passed down from one generation to another. Based on the ritual object, another essential features of the pag-aanito is the dance called the lipe and the chanting of the pag-aanito in the Aeta language. During the dance, the members of the community participating in the rituals will provide the tempo and music by tapping or clapping, while the mga anito dances in circle around the person, constantly waving and swaying the red cloth on the person as if it to drive away the anito from within. Chanting by the mga anito was done while the dance is being performed. It is worth noting that during the ritual, the mga anito is believed to be possessed by another anito, which either persuade or drive away the spirit residing in the person being healed. According to the informants, during the ritual, the mga anito and the na-anito or the sick person are unaware of what is happening, and it's only after the seance that their consciousness returns to back to them. The ritual also involves the family and the relative, but the mga anito and the na-anito, where the mga anito's family helps in preparing the ritual space and in providing melody through guitar, while the na-anito's family and the other members of the community surround and circle the mga anito and the na-anito to create the boundary of the ritual space. The ritual of pag-aanito is seen to be communal science where the members of the community actively participate, and the mga anito is the medium through which the anito or spirits communicate with each other. Beliefs. Most Aetas practice monotheism and are animist. They worship a supreme being and at the same time also believe in environmental spirits. They believe that various places in our environment are being governed by both good and evil spirits.
When it comes to their food, Aetas have a very close bond with the forest in which they live. The Aetas, being hunters and gatherers, get much of their sustenance from the forest. Forest food, whether roasted, boiled, or eaten raw, is an important part of their diet. Leaf and root vegetable, including firm and wild tuber, as well as numerous fruit and blossoms, palm heart, and wild mushrooms are among this food. Wild bananas called amukao have a lot of tiny black seeds, which are strained before the edible part of banana is made into a refreshing juice. While beans like patani or lima kidney beans also form of a large part of the indigenous diet of Aeta tribes in the Luzon region. In of clothing, they dress plainly and simply. Wrap around skirt are worn by the young ladies.
Older ladies dress in bark clothes, while elder males dress in loin clothes. The Agda's ancient ladies wear bark clothes strip that runs between their legs and is laced to a string around their waist. Today, most Aetas who have come into touch with lowlanders have adapted the latter's t-shirt, slap, and rubber sandals.
There are still people relying on nature and cares about place of living and source of life. These people, the Aetas, a indigenous people that are thought to be among the earliest inhabitants of the Philippines. They have very dark brown skin, small structure and frame, curly to kinky hair, small nose and dark brown eyes. The Aetas only built temporary shelters, but the modernized Aetas have moved to villages. In our country, the indigenous people are steadily decreasing because of illegal human activities like illegal mining and illegal logging. Aetas believe that a person must work hard in labor, and in fact they do not like begging. They are misjudged of some people that do not have proper knowledge about these indigenous people and saying that Aetas are low-class citizens. Aetas are rich in culture and it is beautiful inside and out. When they performing their traditional dances, they give a full effort and were not ashamed on it. Their love for their culture went above, symbolizing that they are proud of who they are and their heritage. Aetas only live a simple life, being happy and truly grateful for simple blessings. We realize that regardless of whatever discrimination they might suffer and their struggle living every day, they are truly proud of themselves.